From Capitol Hill, let's ask House Majority Whip and Republican Representative from California, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, who joins us now. Kevin, good to have you on this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me.
First of all, I would love to hear your response to what the president had to say, and then I'm going to ask you about Marco Rubio.
Okay. Well,
did we put the water? You got the water to the side of me there?
We have a cup of water.
It's a cheap shot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Look, I mean, the president, what he laid out, there were some things that we had heard before that were pieced together again. There were a lot of, in some of those arguments that I hear you talking around the table with, one Democrat turned to me, and when he was saying, let there be a vote, it wasn't so much that he was talking to the House. He was trying to talk to the Senate Democrats, because a lot of the things that he talked about, he will actually have trouble getting through a Senate. So part of it was talking to the outside, trying to change Congress, trying to move together. But he delivers a good speech. The most difficult part that I was looking for, of all the things he wants to add, I would have said a pox on both your houses if you don't pass a budget. Do the first priority, and then we could talk about where we're going to spend the rest of this money.
So let's talk about the Democrats up in 2014, and I talked about Kay Hagan. There are a lot of others, though. Democrats face a really uphill battle. Do you get the sense that some of the president's agenda items, whether it's on global warming or gun control, are going to face roadblocks in the Senate because of Senate Democrats?
I think if he tries to move any of that through the Senate, it's probably one of the most difficult jobs he'll have to get it out of the Senate. I mean, what do you got, 6 senators that those states that Obama got under 42% in, and they're up for re-election? That's a very difficult play, and the Senate's not known for really getting things together and moving, and this makes it even more difficult.
I mean, South Dakota, Alaska, North Carolina, Louisiana, Montana, Arkansas. I mean,
that's not an agenda they can run on for re-election.
And those are all Democrats that got elected in really red states that are up in 2014. Go ahead, Harold. I'm sorry. Why don't you ask Kevin?
I'd love to ask him. Kevin, good morning. Harold Ford, Congressman. Very quickly, the president did speak to the need for Congress to act on a variety of things, and he spoke specifically to how Congress responds to manufactured crises. I can appreciate the concern I know you're expressing for Democrats up for re-election in the Senate next year, but was there some truth to the fact that
Kevin's worried. He's sensitive.
Sincere, too. Is there some truth to the fact that Congress only responds and reacts when they're faced with the crisis? And can we move beyond it? Because I think there's a frustration in the country, probably in California, certainly across the country, about how this legislative branch only reacts when they have the proverbial legislative gun to their head.
Look, I've watched a lot of governments through the years, and 9 times out of 10, they only react till after the deadline's passed. And this place is no different. But if you check with what has gone through the House today, we had a debt ceiling crisis. Did you hear us go to the brink, or did you watch the House and the Republicans take the lead and move that beyond and put the focus onto the budget? When you talk today about sequestration, what the president talked about, that's what was the president's idea in the last debt ceiling. So one thing I would say is the most important thing we need to do is end the uncertainty or end the crisis, but what you have to do is deal with those issues early. That's why the House last term passed 2 bills that dealt with sequestration. The Senate did nothing. Now we're coming up to the deadline, and now people are creating a crisis in the budget. If you want to focus on something, you should plan to the future. And if we haven't had a budget come out of the Senate in the last 3 years, and what I think is most ironic, you got Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, sitting up with the First Lady. The last time the Senate Democrats passed the budget, the iPad wasn't even introduced yet. So yeah, I would do the first priorities, and planning in a budget would be the best thing to end a lot of crises.
So what's the Republican plan right now on sequestration? The president doesn't want it, but some conservatives are starting to say, despite the fact that there are a lot of defense cuts in there, this may be the only way we get real spending cuts over the next year.
Look, if nothing happens, sequestration goes into effect. If I look at past behavior of Washington, there's a very good chance it goes into effect. That is what the deal was more than 18 months ago, and that was the only thing the president asked for. You're asking for 3 cents on the dollar to be cut, and it's over a 10-year frame. So everything I see going forward, it's going to go through. And then at the end of the month, you're going to have a continuing resolution, but you're going to find that Republicans in the House want to make sure that we do not create a crisis, that we actually pass a continuing resolution early enough, no problems, move it forward, and let's plan for a future that we can actually build an economy.
So, Kevin, just before we get to the Republican response, are any leaders in Congress, Republican leaders, willing to go to the White House and meet with the president and try and make some sort of at least small deal, if not a bigger one?
Look, we're more than willing to work with the president on any issue he wants to work on. But to be quite frank, we're kind of tired of being Charlie Brown and have Lucy pull the football out from under us. There's many times we go there and want to deal with entitlement reform. And look, I'm one that firmly believes in divided government, you achieve big things. Ronald Reagan had Ross Gronkowski and Tip O'Neill, and they reformed the tax code. Bill Clinton, he had Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole, and they balanced the budget by reforming welfare. You know, right after the inaugural, we had that lunch in Statuary Hall, and I was seated at the table next to Bill Clinton. You know what I whispered into his ear? I said, you know, I never thought I'd tell you this, but we miss you. And I said, my best advice is you should call the president every night for 30 minutes. Talk to him. How do you get to a place? Welfare reform was not a place Democrats wanted to go to under Bill Clinton, but he took them there. And we took them there together with Republicans and Democrats, and it was best for America. We can do that same thing to save entitlements and put America back on a different financial track. And I'll tell you what, you could achieve a lot more when you have a different financial house.
Hey, Kevin,
yes.
But you got to go. I mean, in order to get something done, don't you have to meet with...
We'll gladly meet.
Okay.
There's no problem with us not meeting. The difference is, remember the last times when we meet, the president would take the time and say he couldn't meet because he was out campaigning. He'd go to Michigan. He'd go to Pennsylvania.
Kevin, you know what? Hold on. You can also say that the last time you guys were close to something, you guys released it to the press before you went to the president. Again, go back. Just go back. Just stop.
Look,
I mean,
I've been there many times, and I've watched what the negotiations in. I've listened to the president say many times he wants to reform entitlements, but can never get there at the end of the day. So, look, the framers of this country set out that the House does work, the Senate does work, and then you can go and finish the job and send it to the president. Sometimes I think that's probably the best way to get the job done.
Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. Always love talking to you. Can I leave you with one bit of advice?
Uh-oh.
Sure. If somebody ever asked you to give the response to the State of the Union address, do what Chris Christie said, and just say no. Is it not a no-win situation, actually?
Marcos,
you know, the best advice for Republicans is to win the White House so we never have to give the response.
There you go. Bingo. Kevin McCarthy, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. You know, I thought Gene actually, when he